Welcome to a new fragrance review. Today we're going to talk about the worst fragrances of all time. So there's a couple of fragrances that I feel are really bad fragrance, and it's not the worst smelling as the fragrance that just bad for other reasons. I'm gonna go in order that they come to my mind, and that's gonna be mostly in order in which they were released on the market, but might not be super accurate in that specific order. So we're gonna start with Chanel Numéro 5, which is the big fragrance by Chanel. That's probably, if you talk about perfume, like people, if they know only one perfume at all in the whole world, it's probably going to be this one. It was really popular, and it still is popular, mostly as a woman fragrance, but still. And why I think this fragrance was one of the worst fragrance of all time, and I wouldn't say so much, so specifically, it's like this specific fragrance. The problem, but the reason why it's, in my opinion, one of the worst fragrances of all time is that this fragrance got really popular and it kind of put a spot on Coco Chanel, which was the person that created the brand of Chanel. And she said that she liked to wear fragrance on her skin. And if this is how you should wear Chanel Numéro 5 or all their fragrance or fragrance in general. Since then, people started to wear fragrance on their skin before they were putting it on their clothes. Often was on a handkerchief that it was put, other time just plainly in their clothes. And this is where the smell was coming from when you were wearing the fragrance. Now the problem with this, and nowadays this is still what we do, put the fragrance on our skin. Even me, I put fragrance on my skin, not on my clothes. The big problem with this is that there's a lot of ingredient, at least in time there was a lot of ingredient in fragrance that were bad for your skin. If you put fragrance on your clothes, there's no problem. It's on your clothes, you wash it, and everything is nice. Put it on your skin, that's different, because now it's really bad for you. A lot of stuff were found to be bad. A big one that was found to be bad is bergamot, and bergamot was literally in every fragrance at one time. And a lot of fragrance were having a lot of bergamot. Was really important note, and everything had to be reformulated. We always find new stuff that's bad for your skin. Every fragrance finished to be reformulated. Some time ago, there were oak moss that was all the fragrance of oak moss got reformulated. So all the 80s fragrance, they started to be really bad. And now they find ways to reformulate fragrance in a better way. But Chanel Numéro 5 is the fragrance that started reformulation. That old reformulation movement finished to be bigger than just the skin. And now, since already they're doing reformulation, the formula of a fragrance is not sacred anymore. So if they just want to change it for some reason, they will just do it. If it's starting to be expensive, they will put cheaper ingredient and the fragrance will be not as good. If they want to promote another fragrance, they will make a fragrance not as good because they want the flanker to be sold instead. So if there's a fragrance that you love and you're unhappy that it got reformulated, Chanel Numéro 5 is the fragrance to blame, which is why I think it's a really bad fragrance. But maybe if it wasn't for this fragrance, another would have changed this in this way. Another reason will I be there. For other fragrance, now we're gonna go more with men's fragrance. Another fragrance that I think is really bad is that is one of the worst fragrance of all time. I'm gonna stay with Chanel, and it's gonna be the last fragrance from the brand, and it's Bleu de Chanel. And Bleu de Chanel is a really loved fragrance, and you're gonna see a lot of the fragrance on my list are gonna be fragrance that a lot of people love. And I'm not saying that Bleu de Chanel is necessarily a bad fragrance, even though I think that performance is not super good. But the problem with Bleu de Chanel is that it started the blue train of fragrance, and all the fragrance were made to be nice, clean, and fresh. And it seems it started a movement of lack of originality in fragrance. Nowadays, we often see release, and that release smell like another fragrance that existed before. And I'm not just specifically talking of flankers, which makes sense. Like if there's a Bleu de Chanel Eau de Toilette, and Bleu de Chanel Eau de Parfum, of course they're gonna smell the same. Or even if it's like something like with the same name but different, you would expect it to smell similar. But now there's fragrance that just get released that smell a little bit like this one, and that's it. There's nothing really new. A good example with that would be another fragrance that's actually on the list, which is Invictus, which is a really bad fragrance, or one of the worst fragrance of all time. Not because it smells bad, but because it's so mass appealing. Everyone want to make their version of Invictus. You just think of Legend Spirit by Mont Blanc, example, fragrance that imitate the DNA of Invictus. Now, Invictus, what it made is that the use of ambroxan was really heavy in the fragrance, and now a lot of fragrance just use ambroxan, which makes a lot of fragrance smell pretty much the same. Now, the new goal of fragrance in fragrance world is have something that smells nice and sweet, something that lasts really long and project relatively well. And those three things usually it's ambroxan. So all the fragrance is ambroxan with a twist. If you even look of it's not a fragrance on the list, even though it could be on the list of fragrances that are really boring, but the little robot that I forgot the name by Paco Rabanne. Well, this fragrance is just an Invictus that have lavender and lemon in it. It's just a really boring fragrance that finished to take the same twist of Invictus. And I think Invictus was just like the Bleu de Chanel of vibe of like making stuff that's mass appealing and fresh to a point where they did something that they figure out how to make one thing that's kind of good and light, and everyone turn around that same thing, that same fragrance. And a lot of the briefs are just sweet fragrance with a little twist, always the same thing. It's really sad. That's how it is right now. If you even think of the new gentleman society, same thing. Invictus with a twist, all the same fragrance. And I'm gonna go with a final fragrance on the list, and it's Dior Homme. And Dior Homme, I would go with the whole line, the flankers and everything. I'm gonna keep with the first subject, which is reformulation. Dior Homme was famously reformulated. They kept the same branding. They changed the bottle a little bit. They changed the branding, and now completely transformed. It's different, really different fragrance. A lot of people, they hate it. A lot of people, they love it. And that's not really the point, is that people that love how it was before, now they can't have it because they just reformulated. But I think the problem with the fragrance with Dior Homme, what they did is that they changed the smell and kept the branding. So the fragrance still exists, but it's not the same fragrance. If they would have wanted to do something like that, they could have made a flanker. They could have call it Dior Homme Fresh or Dior Homme Modern or whatever, something different. It doesn't really matter. Then made a flanker do the same purpose, and that wouldn't be good. But the thing with Dior Homme completely changing the fragrance, I think what it's doing, that's why it's the last on the list, because I think the impact was not so bad as the other ones. I think it shows precedent that now company can just completely change a fragrance just because the name sells, so they're going to keep it, and they're just going to switch the formula completely. And even if it's not the same fragrance at all in the end, as long as there's the same name, that's all that matters. That's all that matters to make money. I think this is the path all those big perfume designer houses actually they're going with the fragrance. I don't think we're in a good path. Hopefully it's going to change, because right now it's not about perfume anymore. It's just about making money, no matter how. So, hope you enjoyed the video. If that's the case, like and share. If you have a different opinion on what I'm saying, just put it in the comment. I'll be really happy to hear from you. So, thanks for watching, and see you soon.